I think StarCraft is very balanced on the whole, especially given how different the races are. And that's the way it is. It's going to be it for today's episode of Is It Imba or Do I Suck? If you did enjoy this and you think you have something that is truly imbalanced, be sure to send it in using the form down below. As a Zerg player, I understand the advantages and disadvantages of my race relative to the other two. And I know the theory of how to deal with almost everything, even if I struggle to execute that strategy. Except carriers. I scouted a very early forge and was quite sure they were going turtle/airtos. I started Spire/Hydra then, after I finished my lair, and had a bunch of queens and a few spores out when the first carriers got there. No use. They picked off my natural with ease and then just kept rotating around bases and killing drones until they got a death ball and killed everything. I tried a counterattack with a small army of roachling, but 2 carriers, 1 recalled, and 3 cannons deflected it with no damage. I understand that I didn't manage my defense correctly. Miss rallies and not using my transfuses, and not giving up bases and positioning spores quickly enough. But I had literally twice the APM of my opponent. If there is a strategy where I need to use a response force of 3 different unit types, Queens, Hydras and Corruptors, plus building and maneuvering spores into the right positions, and my opponent literally needs to build 6 units and then target down spores, what the hell am I supposed to do? So tell me, my captain, is it Imba? Or do I suck? This IODIS complaint was filed by Ansible, a North American Zerg player from the Platinum League, with the simple question, are carrions in balance? Or does he suck? Let's figure it out together. And here we go, my dear friends, a Protoss versus Zerg on ley lines between Ansible, our submitter, and Nestax, the Imba user over here. So I'm expecting... Ooh, this is a Nexus first. I've mentioned this many times before in the past. Whenever there's a Nexus first and a Forge, you can be 95% sure that this is going to be Airtos. People that want to secure their natural with a Forge and cannons usually are the type of people that want to straight up rush into Stargate. It also makes some sense. People that play more gateway focused builds, they know the importance of hitting a little bit faster. Like if you're going Glaives, you don't want to open up with 3 cannons. We also see that Nestax here opens up with a full wall. Another pretty fat tell that this most likely isn't going to be some type of gate pressure, of course. Nexus first, into gate, into Forge. Means that the Cybercore is going to be quite a bit delayed already as well, due to the Nexus being before the gateway. We see a second pylon coming up to double gases. I mean, this just looks and smells absolutely like Airtos to me. Let's see how Ansible here is going to respond. One of the cool things you can do if you're playing against such a fast Forge and you see a Nexus first in general, is to delay your metabolic boost, or even to pull completely out of gas the moment you see it, and you just don't get your extra speed upgrade for the links. So you have a little bit extra money. You can spend that extra money on either getting a slightly faster third base, or maybe getting some more drones if you need the money. Like you go double inject, spend a lot of that cash on the drones, life is gonna be good. Now, on top of that, a beautiful little thing here is that you can always, with the Overlord, actually check what the hell is going on the gateway. You can always do that, but especially when your opponent full walls. Your Overlord could just be hanging here, and if you see no unit coming out of the gateway, guess what? It means there is no way for them to deny a scout into the main base. This Overlord right now could be getting a free scout into the main base and seeing this Stargate being produced. That is a very big deal because it allows you to make the correct calls on when to build spores, allows you to make the correct calls on when to build units whatsoever. These 4 links, completely unnecessary. Metabolic boost, completely unnecessary. Like, we don't need these things right now. We never will need those things right now if there are 0 gateway units being produced, if you get the scout on the Stargate. Now, I hear you guys at home, well, when I play against it, my opponents always build a Stalker. Then you don't send in the Overlord. Like, I'm not playing the what-if game over here. If I had a cucumber up my butt, I'd have trouble sitting down. But I don't, so I'm sitting on my chair. If there is no Stalker, and you see 2 cannons in the wall, you send your freaking Overlord in, and you figure out what the hell is going on. Your opponent is building an Oracle. That's great. Maybe we don't need to build a Roach Warren then. Actually, We absolutely do not need to build a Roach Warren then. Our Spore is way too early. Our opponent's Oracle has just barely started, and this Oracle isn't flying across the map. Why the hell are we building a Spore and a Roach Warren? These are drones that could be doing useful things like gathering more minerals. Second gas, not necessary. We don't need extra gas right now. Had we just cancelled our metabolic boost, we could have already been teching into Lair had we wanted, without mining any extra gas and completely focusing on increasing our mineral eco, which is the most important thing. I absolutely adore this link spread, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. This is, this is fantastic. But you know what I would have adored even more? If he would have just gotten the free scout that this is indeed a triple Stargate fleet beacon opener. We're 4 minutes and 30 seconds into the game. There's not a single anti-air unit out. There is a full wall. We could be up to pretty much 50 drones at this point. 0 units, 50 drones, Lair over halfway done, and getting a full scout as to what is going on. Do we need Evo chambers if we're playing against someone that is playing mass air tools? We probably don't. Actually, we don't, because all we need to do is just get a Spire. We just want to get Corruptors out. This is another thing that often bothers me. When people are playing against air tools or against like these type of 1-unit compositions, if people are playing a very simple composition, it often means that the counter to that composition is also very simple, right? If someone is messing carriers, you just need to build Corruptors. You don't need to build Corruptors and Hydras and Infest. Just Corruptors and you're going to win every single fight. If they then add in Void Rays, maybe you need to add in Vipers as well. But as long as it's just carriers, Corruptors are actually gonna poop on this composition. So your Lair should have been done already. Your Spire already should have been on the way because you would have had this free information. Right now, the only info that you have is that there is a full wall and that nothing has moved out, at least not within link vision. You could have gotten full confirmation, but instead you decided not to. You're getting road speed against someone that doesn't have a single ground unit. You can also just scout, by the way, that Warp Gate hasn't finished up because this gateway hasn't morphed quite yet. So even if you don't want to go in, and even theoretically, if I had a cucumber up my butt, you would still know that there is no Warp Gate, and thus most likely this is going to be air toss. Why are we building roaches off of 60 drones against someone that is going air toss? Why do we only have 5 queens in general? But specifically against someone that is going air tolls, just get 7, 8, 9 queens, a Spore per base, Spire on the way. There's absolutely no shot we should be taking any damage at this point whatsoever against a triple carrier move out that should have been completely scouted pretty much from minute 3. You had so much time to prepare. You got 4 buildings that are unnecessary, both of those Evo chambers, the Roach Warren and the Hydra Den. You got Metabolic Boost, which was useless. You got those Links, which were useless. You got those Roaches that were useless. You got so much useless stuff. And despite all of that, I still think your position is completely fine. If you just see this move out ahead of time, you get all your queens in the correct position in the natural, because that is where it seemingly is going. I feel like you should still be capable of completely holding this. You have what? 7 queens? 6 queens now. 7 queens available. 8 queens available, I can't count. 8 queens available, 3 spores. This should absolutely be enough if you just throw the transfusers on the spores here and all your queens are in position as your spores are being targeted down. All your queens are actually fighting. And you clear the interceptors rather than going for the carriers. I think life genuinely would have been quite good. Here, once again, no transfusers being used despite having the energy available is a pretty freaking big deal. Roaches not being the most useful thing. Whenever you have roaches, by the way, and your opponent has air units, maybe you should try to deny the third base while it's going up with those roaches, or while you're being attacked. There is a period of time when the only thing that's out are these 3 carriers, and they can either be on your side of the map killing stuff, or they can be defending the roaches. Your roaches are not gonna get useful this game ever. You know this already. The dude you're playing probably has, a small form of brain damage, as all he does is spam carriers on the ladder. So he's not going to be capable of defending 2 things at the same time. You know that. But you with, what did you say, double the APM, are not doing anything useful. Scientists have actually managed to train multiple gorillas that have reached up to 250 APM. Are they doing any useful actions? Not really, but their APM is extremely high. Like, having high APM doesn't actually matter if what you're doing is completely pointless. And right now what you're doing is completely pointless. You're adding in more Hydras, despite Corruptors being the correct answer. I do like that you're expanding over to the third base and not just rallying in units one by one into the carriers. I guess that's kind of what you just did there, though. And I guess that's also kind of what you... Never mind. Okay, I take back my last statement. I wanted to give you a compliment. You know, I wanted to give you like the poop sandwich. Poop, no wait, what is it? Compliment, insult, compliment. Except it's very difficult to give someone compliments that plays like you do. Just now you're starting to add Corruptors into the mix after having completely upgraded all your ground stuff, by the way. Look at all the money that went into upgrades on units that you don't want to have. Roachling, I think this is your famed counterattack that you talked about in the imbalance complaint form. Completely useless as you're just standing here. Like, this isn't hard-hitting. This isn't a hard-hitting attack, you know? It absolutely is not. Okay, now your Corruptors are out and you decide to kind of sprinkle them into your opponent's carrier force. 1 by 1, 2 by 2. Despite that, you're probably still going to be capable of cleaning this up. I wonder if with 2 Corruptors against 1 carrier is good enough. I don't think so. Especially because this carrier has +1. Still gonna recall, because once the 3rd Corruptor shows up, the carrier goes away. Look at that! You build the correct counter to your opponent's army rather than 23 Hydras, and they have to leave. The problem here isn't that the Corruptor is weak against the carrier. The problem here is that your opponent has more carriers than you have Corruptors. And another problem is that you're getting range attack upgrades, while you should be getting carapace and attack upgrades for your Corruptors, if possible. You should be trying to add in more drones, so you can continue building more and more Corruptors. Like, Carrier Storm is very powerful. Carrier Storm, Archon, Tempest, Oracle. If you have that type of composition as a Protoss player, it's really hard for the Zerg to do anything unless you're like freaking Serral. However, Pure Carrier is nowadays about as simple to counter as Pure Carrier is to play. You legitimately just build Corruptors and you're fine. Corruptors destroy carriers. If you want to be fancy, you can, you know, with your 150 APM, you can add in a Parasitic Bomb as well. Parasitic Bomb one of the carriers, fly into the carriers, and all the interceptors, boom, freaking disappear. It is really freaking simple. If you really believe your opponent is this brain dead and can only build carriers and then win, then you are also brain dead because you're incapable of countering a unit that is very easily counterable. It is both easy and simple. Like, you don't need to do anything complex, and the bar of execution is extremely low on the Zerg side as well right now. In the past, that might not have been the case, because if you just A-move, you would be attacking interceptors, but nowadays, the carriers do get attacked if you just kind of A-move in, so you don't even really have to micro anymore. You just kind of fly in and you A-move, and carriers will fall at a very rapid pace. The problem here for you is that you've already lost a crap ton of workers, you've lost about 23 Hydras, you're down in upgrades, you're now getting Carapace upgrade. I don't understand this need to add more Hydras into the mix. Did you rebuild Roaches as well? No, this is still the initial Roaches. Okay, thank God. Like, you just figured out that the Corruptors were a good counter because 2 carriers pissed off after you send 3 Corruptors towards them. And then you decide to go back into the Hydras. I'm not entirely sure why, but that is what you did decide to do. I'm not sure if you could have gotten to a good enough Corruptor count, but if you get like 15 to 20 Corruptors against this, you have Queens and some Spores, you're going to be capable of having a much better fight than if you're just fighting with 7 Hydras on the floor and 6 Corruptors. That, by the way, were attacking the Interceptors here for some reason. Like, just because you're A-moving 600 times at the same spot does not mean that is an adequate way of playing whatsoever. Actually, quite the contrary. Carrier's just gonna move back. Another bad thing about having 2 types of units, by the way, is that you have to double upgrade. So you feel forced into upgrading both the Hydras, the attack, the Carapace, and also the air units. Well, if you're just going for the air units, you just have a single set of upgrades. Could have probably afforded a second Spire as well. So you would have had some Carapace upgrades on there, which is freaking huge against carriers, by the way, because all interceptors do individual damage. So that is a lot of armor that gets into play there. And at this point, I do feel like the game is pretty much over. And yeah, it looks really simple for the Protoss to play. That is because this is really simple for the Protoss to play. However, it also is really simple for the Zerg to scout that this is happening because he had no anti-air. It is really simple for the Zerg to deny a third base because there is nothing there. So if you do accidentally get link speed, you send 12 links over, that base is gone because there's no ground unit. It is really simple for the Zerg to just build Corruptors and counter this army. It is really simple for the Zerg to... you could even hold this with, theoretically, freaking Microbial Shroud and Hydra would also work. You could go for Neural Parasite if you wanted to. If you get Vipers with Parasitic Bomb and Corruptor, like, that's absolutely gonna blast this army. There's like... The worst part is that there's like 3-4 viable compositions against what this Protoss is doing. And I already know what you're going to say. You're going to be like, well, but what if the Protoss adds in high tempo? It's like, yeah, what if? Then we'll deal with that problem at that point. Right now, you're dying against a dude that is building carriers without denying any scouting. This is your level. This is what you're dying to. This should be a very simple solution, yet you are incapable of figuring out what the solution is, and you get to complain. What did you even say in your form? You said, I know the theory of how to deal with almost everything, even if I struggle to execute that strategy. Like, you are not going to... I find it hard to believe that you understand the theory of absolutely anything at all if you can't figure out that the Corruptor counters the carrier. Like, if that step is too large, this is a single unit composition, and you did not manage to figure out how to beat that. There is no way in the world that you figured out how to beat Mine Marine Marauder, that you know how to fight into Liberators. Like, this was not a hard question. Like, you're not going to be capable of doing derivatives if 2 + 2 confuses you, all right? It is not the case. And as a result, I sadly am going to have to say that a pure carrier army that hits with its first attack at 7 minutes is not imbalanced. But perhaps the problem is you. And it is you who sucks. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Oh, let me stand up. Man, that hurts. All right. Thanks for watching. I hope you did enjoy this episode of IODIS. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time. Bye-bye.